From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer.
Good evening. A super blizzard is roaring through the Plain States and the Great Lakes area today, and it is driving temperatures even lower in the eastern half of the United States, already experiencing the coldest weather of the century. More than 250 people are dead now because of the past week's weather, and new snow in Washington last night has complicated recovery efforts for the victims of Wednesday's airliner crash. We have two reports. First, Bob McNamara in Chicago.
Chicago was like a city on a cake of dry ice, with a noontime temperature of 16 below and a wind chill factor of 64 below. Usually crowded State Street was almost empty. A hairdryer moaned in the cold to thaw open a revolving door. And business...
I'm going to close up in the next 15 minutes.
All across the Arctic Midwest from Ohio to Idaho, those who went out in the bone-chilling 20 and 30 below cold didn't go far or go slowly for long.
After I get the tanks filled up, we're going to go to the bank and then we're going to hibernate.
Still, some couldn't avoid trouble. In Cleveland, a 25-car pileup injured 16 persons when the cutting edge of the snow and cold wave put a sheet of ice on a city freeway. In Milwaukee overnight, firemen fought a pair of blazes in 20 below temperatures, but one of the fires claimed the life of a 9-year-old boy, and today left an icy reminder of the ferocity of this second winter freeze. Again today, ground blizzards and drifting snow forced police to close highways in Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, and the Dakotas. And while dozens of motorists holed up in motels and restaurants to wait out the weather, scores of air travelers were stranded at Chicago's O'Hare International, where flights to the east were canceled for a time due to drifting snows and blankets of ice on runways at airports such as Detroit, Cleveland, and Buffalo. And though some prepared to spend the night waiting for flights out of Chicago, others learned they could still get home tonight.
But you put her in Ontario at 8:20.
God bless you, Ron. God bless you. You're all right, sir.
Not so fortunate are those who have to face another day of raw cold in Minneapolis, Milwaukee, and Chicago tomorrow. But they'll have plenty of company as the storm sweeps across the East Coast and sends thermometers plunging in the south tonight. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Chicago.
In bitter sub-freezing temperatures, recovery teams probed the wreckage of the Air Florida plane that went into the Potomac on Wednesday, having to break through the ice at the start of operations. They managed to bring parts of the Boeing 737 to the surface. Divers recovered the frozen bodies of 28 more passengers, most of whom they found strapped in their seats. The dead were taken to a makeshift morgue, a big tent on the west bank of the Potomac. Divers remained beneath the surface for as much as 1 hour at a time. The question of whether Air Florida Flight 90 took off with too much ice on its control surfaces is still not answered, said the National Transportation Safety Board's investigator Francis McAdams.
We have no indication that this man knew that he had a substantial amount of ice, if indeed he did. We don't even know that he did at this time. We don't know why the airplane did what it did, and we're going to try and find out.
Recovery crews worked into the darkness trying to bring the tail section of the plane to the surface. That part of the jetliner contains the so-called black boxes, which record certain flight data and the conversation that went on between the pilots as disaster approached.
We have to know what was going on in the cockpit, what remarks or comments that the crew was making. Their remarks may be so relevant, so pertinent to what caused this aircraft to go in the river.
A barge equipped with a crane capable of lifting 40 tons is on its way to the crash site. But if temperatures forecast to be in the low teens cause further freezing of the search area in the Potomac, recovery operations may be called off for tomorrow. Nelson Denton, CBS News, Washington.
You've seen these hands probably hundreds of times, and you don't even know whose they are.
They're mine. I'm a professional hand model, so my hands better look good. And that's why I use Rose Milk skincare lotion.
Rose Milk is made with tiny moisturizers, less than 1/4 the size of ordinary lotions, so it smooths and softens your skin thoroughly, and Rose Milk isn't greasy.
Take it from someone who depends on soft, smooth hands for a living. There's nothing like rose milk.
John? John, where are you?
Oh, it's one of those nights.
I can't sleep.
And you've got that meeting tomorrow.
When someone you love can't get to sleep, give him Nightal. On those occasional nights when you have trouble, Nightal helps make you drowsy so you can fall asleep. And that can mean...
Good morning.
A better tomorrow. When someone you love has one of those nights, give him Nightal. Nightal.
There were more signs today that in Poland the thaw is coming in the 5-week-old martial law. Movie houses and theaters have reopened, and Warsaw's leading newspaper resumed publication today. The military government also said that the broadcast of Roman Catholic church services will resume tomorrow. The government's chief spokesman added, however, that there is no truth to reports that martial law will be lifted soon. He said it will remain in effect until the factors that brought it on no longer exist. Israel's Defense Minister Sharon has warned that when Israel pulls out of the Sinai in April as part of the Camp David agreement, it will leave nothing of value behind for the Egyptians. Sharon says that Israel does not want thousands of Egyptians to move in immediately, which he says might lead to friction along the new border. To be left behind is exactly what some Israeli settlers in one Sinai town are demanding, though, and Bob Fall has that story.
Many Israelis, Yamit is sacred land, part of ancient Israel, which must not be surrendered at any cost. So what 10 years ago was just sand in the desert is now a battleground where trenches have been dug, barbed wire strung, and vows made to resist the Egyptian takeover scheduled for April. Fervent ultra-nationalists have brought in hundreds of Jews who vow they'll never leave and plan to bring in thousands more who feel the same way. Longtime residents have other reasons for wanting to stay.
There's no way that you can duplicate the quality of life in this particular region of Israel, then you cannot move to any place that will have the same kind of life that here.
So negotiations over compensation have been bitter and strained. Finally, hoping to avoid bloodshed, the Begin cabinet agreed to pay Yamit's 400 families the staggering sum of $65 million, almost $200,000 per family. Israel's finance minister screamed that the money was more than most Israelis would make in a lifetime. Editorials called the proposal obscene and accused Yamit residents of extortion. But many here, like Ahuvia Rosenfried, argue that given all they've invested, the huge sum is not enough.
For living in the United States, $1, it's a lot of money. In Israel, it's nothing. It's nothing. Because to buy something in Israel, you need a lot of dollars.
Some residents, dispirited, have taken the government compensation and left, accusing those who stay of holding out, not for principle, but for top dollar. And uncertainty grows, largely because the Begin government, which once said that residents had to leave early, now says they can remain until the end. That same government also provides electricity and water for newly arrived squatters. That ambivalence buoys those who, like Yael Amishov, vow to resist.
It isn't a problem of money. The problem is political. We are in the midst of a diplomatic and political war, and we're fighting here a decisive battle.
It is then a test of wills in the desert, which has turned a showplace into a symbol. And the question now is whether Yamit will be a symbol of resistance, like Masada, where residents held out against all odds, or a symbol of a more modern adage that everything has its price. Bob Fall, CBS News, Yamit.
Two separate Palestinian guerrilla groups are claiming responsibility for last night's bombing of a restaurant in West Berlin owned by two Israelis. 25 people were hurt when the bomb went off. 5 remain hospitalized today, including a baby girl who is in critical condition. 6 suspected members of a Palestinian guerrilla organization were detained, but they were released for lack of evidence. Red Brigade's terrorists in Italy who kidnapped American General James Dozier have issued their 4th communique since the abduction last month, but it adds nothing new to the mystery of Dozier's whereabouts.
Dear Atari Anonymous, my son Boris has a missile command problem.
My mission in life is to save all of mankind.
Lately, my daughter has developed a similar problem with Atari warlords. Now with video pinball, my husband is acting funny lately. With Atari games so ingenious, so involving, so intense, I ask you, Atari Anonymous, is this problem contagious?
It's coming. It's taking over in offices coast to coast. It's the paper blob. It's packed with important papers that should move out of your office fast, but can't get loose. This is a job for the Federal Express overnight letter. It costs only $9.50 when you drop it off, and it actually gets there overnight. So you'll never have to worry about the paper blob again. Federal Express, when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight.
Charles Robb was sworn in as governor of Virginia today. He is the first Democrat to hold that post in 12 years. In Florida, it was a group of Republicans who gathered to hear what political partisans always enjoy hearing, that the country's problems are not their fault. Here's Wyatt Andrews with that.
For 1,000 Southern Republicans in Florida this weekend, it is barbecue ribs and mink coat time. A large-scale strategy session to talk about congressional elections this fall. And part of that strategy is already clear. When the public complains about the 8.9% unemployment rate, this strategy goes, blame it on the Democrats.
Well, unemployment is obviously a problem. It wasn't our creation, and everyone knows that.
None of the economic plans of the past administration worked at all. They are the genesis of the problems we're suffering today.
We're dealing with problems that have accrued over the last 25 years.
And if 25 years worth of problems aren't enough...
It took the Democrats nearly 50 years to screw the country up in the condition it's in. It's like being on a binge for 50 years. You don't sober up overnight without a hangover.
It could be worse than a hangover. Proudly pointing to lower interest rates and lower inflation, the party and president which promised jobs, jobs, and jobs is now strapped with the worst election year unemployment rate in 35 years. And off-year congressional elections are historically unkind to the party of the president. Republicans need to change 26 House seats to control the Congress outright. And to win them, the GOP has already raised $37.5 million, the bulk of it going into cash contributions, and according to the woman who will spend that money, into training seminars to teach Republican candidates how to defend Reagan economics.
1981 was an historic year. I mean, the president, the Democratic House, the Republican Senate changed the direction of this country, changed the economic direction of this country. So the real question in 82, I think, is will the voters vote to continue that change?
The uncertainty over the nation's economy has not yet cracked Southern Republican confidence in Ronald Reagan. The party line belief here is still very strong that all will improve even in the face of 9% unemployment. We know the bad news, said one county chairman, but the good news is we still have 6 months to take care of it. At the barbecue, Republicans joined the chorus of a country song celebrating one man's courage to quit his job. Take this job and sell it. But Republicans know their economics are about to be tested by the 9 million American workers who don't have work at all. I ain't working here no more. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Kissimmee, Florida.
Well, there's apparently new trouble among President Reagan's top advisors at the White House over just who approved the controversial decision to grant tax-exempt status to schools that discriminate on racial grounds. The decision was so severely criticized that the president has since said he'll ask Congress to pass laws denying the exemptions. The Los Angeles Times reports today that top White House assistants Michael Deaver and James Baker were livid when they learned of the original decision and that White House counselor Edwin Meese had approved it without their knowledge. Meese denies that was the case, but Times Bureau Chief Jack Nelson says his sources had direct knowledge that Meese did approve it. One thing that President Reagan campaigned on was deregulation, freeing business of cumbersome and, in the administration view, unneeded government regulations. Mr. Reagan gave the job to Vice President Bush, and tonight Jacqueline Adams has a report on how it's been going.
Somebody at the end of the year asked me, well, you know, how much of the job do you think you've done? Well, I said, well, I can't possibly quantify that for you. I said, maybe 10%. And I could just see her writing down, well, you know, 10%, that's a failure. It isn't a failure. This is a tremendous job, and it won't be finish when we finished 4 years.
At the end of 1 year, the Vice President's Regulatory Relief Task Force has reviewed 2,781 regulations. It rejected 91 and says that it has saved American businesses up to $4.8 billion in investment expenditures, $2 billion in yearly costs. Here is some of what's been done. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration repealed the rule that all cars be equipped with airbags or automatically closing seatbelts. The Federal Trade Commission dropped cases aimed at breaking up the Big 8 oil companies and the Big 3 cereal manufacturers. The Consumer Product Safety Commission refused to write rules governing projectile toys and dropped an investigation into the fire hazards of electric clothes dryers. And the Occupational Safety and Health Administration no longer makes surprise inspections. Some economists are critical. Trucking regulations have grown tougher, they charge, and agencies were preoccupied by budget cutting.
Beyond that executive branch review process, there haven't been very many significant initiatives in terms of pressing for legislative change where that's merited, or in terms of striking out in new directions by the agencies.
But Christopher Demuth, Executive Director of the Regulatory Relief Task Force, thinks both big business and consumers should be pleased with the reforms to date.
I think that consumers ought to give us the same grade that anybody else should. The whole purpose of what we are doing is to make the economy more competitive and more productive. And the effect of what we're doing is going to be to reduce consumer prices.
Sandra Willett of the National Consumers League fears that the administration has failed to compute the human costs of deregulation.
Consumers across the country do not want to have to live with their fingers crossed, hoping that their child won't be injured by dangerous toys, hoping that their water supply won't be poisoned by hazardous waste, hoping that the products they buy in the stores are safe.
The regulatory reformers in year 2 will continue chipping away at needless and excessive regulations. But they plan to take special aim at the Environmental Protection Agency, pushing for relaxation of clean air and water rules in Congress and enforcing only the minimum requirements of existing laws. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, Washington.
Got a busy day ahead? Then take along the vitamins in Kellogg's Product 19 cereal.
Delicious.
100% of 9 vitamins and iron that can keep you company during the day.
Morning, children.
And that adds up to good nutrition. So when things get hopping, the vitamins in Product 19 can help. 100% of the way, 100% of the day. Kellogg's Product 19. We're with you 100%.
Fix Formula 44D, please.
Helen, with this nasty cough plus congestion, I need...
Formula 44D.
But Helen, I need a decongestant, not just strong cough medicine.
You need Formula 44D. It's strong like Formula 44. Has the strongest non-narcotic cough suppressant you can buy. Plus ingredients to help unstuff your nose and loosen up for chest congestion.
That's what I said. Formula 44D. Strong for coughs plus congestion.
The polls were open in Austin, Texas today for a very unusual referendum, whether to become the nation's first city with a law allowing landlords to refuse housing to homosexuals. David Dick reports.
I ask you to vote today against this ordinance.
Getting out the vote today in Austin was as intense, as emotional, perhaps more so, than in any other election here in recent years. The single question on the ballot, whether to make it legal for a landlord to deny housing on the basis of, quote, sexual orientation.
Please be sure to vote today because we do expect the vote to be close. Thank you.
It is an issue which has allied homosexuals with many other groups in Austin who fear passage of such an ordinance would lead to wholesale discrimination. Rob Sutherland is a spokesperson for a group called Citizens for a United Austin.
When you say it shall not be unlawful to deny housing on the basis of sexual orientation, and you take the legal definition of sexual orientation, which includes everyone, homosexuals, heterosexuals, bisexuals, or anything else, and you put the legal definition back into the ordinance, it means it shall not be unlawful to deny housing to anyone for any reason whatsoever.
Today's vote, the result of a petition with some 27,000 signatures,
has been spearheaded by a medical doctor, Stephen Hotze, father of 6. He says he became alarmed after it appeared the Austin City Council would pass a pro-homosexual housing ordinance.
Homosexual activity in Texas is a criminal offense, and to break the law is immoral. And what our city council was preparing to do was to give public approval and public sanction to those that practice a criminal offense, which is homosexuality. If that's not immoral, I don't know what is.
Asked if he feels his 6 children are threatened by homosexuals, Dr. Hotze replies, homosexuals, by definition, don't biologically reproduce.
They recruit. And who do they recruit? They recruit youngsters at formative, impressionable ages.
Donald Thomas, a prominent attorney in Austin, a friend of the late President Lyndon Johnson, has argued for a calmer approach in today's special election.
I think that one reason for the fight against it is that we do not want to have the image with your audience or in our country of being discriminatory or being alarmed or panicked by the problem of homosexuality.
Opponents of today's initiative say if it carries, it will be clearly unconstitutional, and they have vowed to fight it in the courts. David Dick, CBS News, Austin.
In Miami, several hundred angry Cubans blocked downtown traffic, yell slogans, and scuffle with police today to protest what is believed to be the first deportation of a Cuban refugee back to Havana since Fidel Castro came to power. The refugee arrived in Miami on Wednesday and was sent home yesterday after immigration officials said he did not qualify for asylum.
Hey, what's this, no homecoming kiss? What's wrong, babe?
Oh, Jonathan, it's your breath.
My breath? That bad?
You need Clorettes, the breath deodorant.
The breath deodorant? Sounds strong.
Clorettes with Actazole is strong to deodorize mouth odors. It helps your mouth's own freshening power eliminate bad breath.
Terrific. Cost much?
A little more.
But for the breath deodorant, it's worth it.
Clorettes, the breath deodorant.
I just got rid of a scratchy, dry skin itch. Thanks, Lanacane.
4-second Lanacane.
I just got rid of an aggravating itch. Thanks, Lanacane.
4-second Lanacane.
I just got rid of a most embarrassing itch. Thanks, Lanacane.
Lanacane's anesthetic goes to work in 4 seconds to relieve all kinds of itching. Strong enough to stop dry skin itch, yet gentle enough for sensitive tissue. Its antibacterial helps natural healing. Lanacane Cream, America's 4-second itch relief.
For the past few weeks, some music fans who favor Gershwin and other masters of the piano have been getting together to listen to their favorite works, often played by the masters who composed them. It isn't a seance or a sleight of hand, but a New York City club with a very special piano. Charles Osgood has our report.
The new ballroom is not a ballroom. It's a restaurant and cabaret. People come here to dine and drink and listen to music. In this case, they have come to listen to some piano music, played on a remarkable piano by some remarkable pianists.
This is the Hungarian Rhapsody, number 12, performed by Artur Rubinstein.
It's been a long time since Artur Rubinstein played piano in a cabaret, and indeed we are not about to see that venerable gentleman walk out onto the stage. But we are about to hear him play. That is Artur Rubinstein playing. A half a century ago, Rubinstein sat at an instrument much like this one and played the Hungarian Rhapsody number 12. And a piano roll was made. Not an ordinary player piano roll, but one that could capture the expression, the nuances of his playing. Once there were many concert grand reproducing pianos, now there are only a very few. And this one, an Ampico B, rebuilt at a cost of $60,000, is the only one now performing publicly. The paper roll turns at a preset speed. Holes in the paper pass over openings in a pneumatic system through which air is pumped with a bellows. The holes tell the instrument which keys Rubinstein pressed 52 years ago, how hard he pressed them, and how long he held each note. Marion Fraser, the young man who rebuilt this instrument, insists it's not a recording of piano music, it is piano music.
Even as sophisticated as recording systems are today, the playback system still is not able to reproduce the sound of the piano as well as the reproducing piano could.
Because you're listening not to a recording of an instrument, but to an instrument.
You're playing through a paper speaker, or in some cases now plastic, but it's not the same thing as hearing it actually on the strings of the piano.
The equipment to make a roll for a reproducing piano no longer exists. But there are hundreds of rolls cut years ago by the likes of Ignaz Paderewski, Sergei Rachmaninoff, and George Gershwin. To Larry Kramen, who manages the new ballroom and arranges the programs, it is as if Gershwin himself stopped by to play the Rhapsody in Blue.
I get the feeling there is a spiritual involvement with a lot of people in the audience, certainly with me. I feel a kinship with these people. I feel that they're probably, wherever they are, they're smiling right now.
At the tables, some people listen attentively. Others seem more interested in the food and drink and each other. Meanwhile, up on the stage, Sergei Rachmaninoff is playing Chopin. Although there is no one sitting at the stool, the music is alive. It is 1982, but if you close your eyes, you can imagine you are in some kind of time warp. Play it again, Sergei.
That's the news. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News, New York. Good night.
Touch. Now Canon gives it a new meaning with the One Touch, the Canon NP120 copier. There isn't even a power switch. Just touch and copying begins instantly. You get 12 copies a minute on plain paper without wasted time or energy. The low-cost Canon NP120, the One Touch. Turning it off is even simpler. No touch. Call toll-free for information or contact your Canon dealer.
It's working. Millions of people like you have fallen asleep faster with Unisom, the only sleep aid with doxylamine. In clinical tests, Unisom helped people feel drowsy, so they fell asleep faster, an average of 23 minutes faster than they did without Unisom, and slept better at night. Unisom, proven in clinical tests and by people like you. For occasional sleeplessness, fall asleep faster and rest assured with Unisom.
From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer. These stations supplied news, film, and tape to the CBS Evening News this weekend. Tomorrow's guest on Face the Nation will be Dr. Georgy Arbatov, member Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union Academy of Sciences. For an update on Sunday's events, watch the CBS Evening